The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
By the way, you may be asking yourself, maybe you're not, Kurre and Klapow used to do this thing every Thursday for like an hour, whatever we watch on Fox 6, and now you're doing like 3 or 4 different segments. We realize that people don't have an hour. And our stuff is so damn good.
It is.
You want to listen to all of it, and one woman emailed me at info@tonycurryradio.net. She's like, I really appreciate the fact you're breaking it down in segments so I can listen to them later, because I don't want to get halfway through something. It's like watching a television show and you're watching the first 30 minutes, you don't want to pick back up, you can't remember where you resume or if it starts all over again and you're fast forwarding. So we do it in segments, and she was running late for work every week.
Right,
because she's sitting out of the parking lot listening to our show, and she's like, and then she realized
we're giving you nice, healthy portions.
Exactly.
Isn't that nice?
So, recent Pew research indicates that over 60% of young men are currently single. That's 63%. Sexual intimacy is a 30-year low across genders. Generation Z men are excessively turning to porn to satiate sexual needs, satiate sexual needs. With long-term, I was thinking about saturate, but it's not.
Saturate.
There's no R in there.
Yeah, okay.
And I actually looked up that word and know how to pronounce this morning.
Satiety.
With long-term consequences to their sexual health, young men must reprioritize real-life relationships and intimacy attuned to the shift in priorities that women have already made.
That's surprising.
Oh, you're still back there? I already figured out how to get to the restaurant. You want to come over this way? No, I'll figure it out on my own. Okay, well, your appetite's getting cold.
I'm not going off, but it's every aspect of life.
Yeah, we've already figured it out. Let us know when you figure it out yourself. I got it. No, I'll figure it out. Or one will say, ask somebody. I'm going.
No, I'll figure it out.
I'm good.
Right.
So I just want to read part of this article.
Sure.
It's really good. Listen up. A recent Pew Research study suggests a tectonic shift in the dating and sex life of men. Study found that among men under 30 years old, over 60% are single, almost double that of women in the same age bracket. Mm-hmm. Which means a lot of women are dating fewer guys.
Right.
No wonder you see ugly dudes with good-looking women. There ain't nothing to choose from.
We've already talked about that, yeah.
Not only are more young men single, but their opportunities for developing relationship and sexual repertoire have all but vanished, as levels of sexual intimacy across genders appear to have hit a 30-year low. However, the pandemic.
Love that pandemic.
I'm telling you, man, 15, 20 years from now, we're still going to be talking about this flipping pandemic, because it's still going to be affecting us.
Absolutely.
Disrupted the status quo in college-age daters and accelerated women's reprioritization away from intimacy and toward academic, professional, and financial goals. Women are like, all right, I'm moving on. Whereas guys were still trying to figure it out. And that's relationships, right? Like, I know we have a problem here, but it's going to go away.
Right.
I know there's a red flag here, and I know we need to deal with this, but I'm not going to communicate, and I know the longer we're together, the more we'll grow together, and it'll just go away. And the woman's like, I'm dealing with it now, you deal with it later, and then we're divorced, and we wonder what the hell is happening.
That's so code for guys for saying, I don't really want to do anything differently.
I don't want to do anything differently.
But I'll say words.
Yeah.
Right? I'll say words as red flags. Yeah.
As young women continue to pursue intimate relationships less intently post-pandemic, men could have increased relationship skills to close the effort gap. They could have confronted the relative avoidance and challenged the gender norms that made them so anxious about intimacy. They appear to have done the opposite, turning even further away from real-life relationships and into the virtual world, just knowing that it was going to be okay. Yeah, I know I haven't been laid in 2 years. I know I haven't been in a serious relationship, but I know it's really uncomfortable, but I know that I'll come around when things start getting normal. And
Besides, I got this over here.
It's the path of least resistance.
Absolutely.
Which means, how are men pleasing themselves? In a recent interview with The Hill, psychologist and masculinity researcher Fred Rabinowitz of the University of Redlands pointed to pandemic adaptations that have lost their utility. He suggests that young men are watching a lot of social media, they're watching a lot of porn, and I think they're getting a lot of their needs met without having to go out. Mm-hmm. Young men are, in fact, watching a lot of porn. Data from the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Italy suggest that between 76 and 87% of men 18 to 29 are consuming porn every day. That is really scary.
Yeah, I mean, that number is huge across countries. That's huge.
At well-developed countries.
Yeah.
One notable finding is that men who use porn more often tend to report less satisfaction with real-life sex. Go figure. Even more concerning is a rise in psychogenic related erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, diminished libido in men under 40 years as old is associated with frequent porn use as well. Faced with a choice between an energy-intensive, high-competitive dating environment and the low-effort rewards of porn, young men appear to be taking the path of least resistance.
Yep.
These choices will have lasting relational consequences. Young men have fewer dating opportunities to develop real-life intimacy and competency.
That's the part. The last sentence to me is the most. I mean, the other stuff is super interesting, but that last sentence is really.
So I went a little further
to
the comments section. Did you do that?
No, I didn't do it. I don't like comments. They make me.
28-year-old teacher, is a picture of him, by the way. Good-looking guy, out of Kentucky. Said that after the pandemic, dates feel more like job interviews.
Yeah.
She's asking the question on the first date, what can you do for me? And where is this going? Mm-hmm. He said the getting to know you period is gone. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't feel so great after coming out of an isolation period.
God, there's so many layers. All right, I gotta collect my thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so the broader pandemic issue that we're seeing that relates to this is social skills, our ability to interact. Those skills diminish. We spent far less time interacting in person, and particularly around intimate or potentially intimate social interaction. We got bad at it.
Yeah.
And if you think about the cohort of 20-year-olds, when normally they'd be out dating and they'd be doing a lot more interaction than our age, right? They'd be doing tons of social, going to bars, going to parties, all that kind of stuff. It all pulled back.
Yeah.
So everybody got not as good at it across the board. The second thing that happened is people really started thinking about what relationships mean. That's easy for a 40-year-old, 40-year-old to say because they've been in relationships, they've had those things. But now you have 28, 25 to 30-year-olds saying, wait a minute, maybe I need to rethink this a little bit. And again, more so women than men. And so what you have is, and I kind of disagree with what the teacher was saying. The get to know, it's still get to know. It's just the intensity went up.
Yeah.
And as men, we, to your point, we're already behind. We were already behind in sort of social skills and communication around thoughts and feelings. We're not that good at it anyway. And now we're going out on a date and they're asking big questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part. And then when you couple that with, and this is the part that's scary, is from a purely sexual gratification standpoint, if you've got something that sort of scares you or you're not very good at or you makes you nervous, like interacting at the emotional level, and you go, oh, I don't need to do that to feel good because there's this thing over here and it's easy and I'll be successful, etc. You're going to keep going to that. And what they're saying here, and it's true, is every time you keep going to that, you're losing this opportunity to get better at the other skill.
It also mentioned in this article that men are getting worse at rejection.
Oh, absolutely.
Than we ever have. And I'm like, we were already really bad.
Yes, because the porn doesn't reject you.
Because when we finally do get the chutzpah to go out and finally go on a date, and it doesn't go really well,
or great,
or great, or there's some sense of rejection there. We even get our little
because that's the same. That's in the same.
I'm like, hey, listen, she said yes. So there's, you know what I mean? She said yes to you.
But that's the same, and that's the same. It's all the same category of social. And they talk about social relational interactions, and part of it is being able to speak. Part of it's being able to speak truthfully. Part of it's being able to speak about your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings. Part of it is being able to handle more intense questions and answer honestly about it. I don't know what I'm going to do for you. That's something I need to think about. And then part of it also is, which has always been there, but we get worse, is accepting that this particular interaction didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go. It's really, the bad thing about this is we're talking about dating and sex, etc. for 20 to 30-year-olds. It totally bleeds over. I see this in business all the time. The generation that is also now in the workforce that doesn't get great reviews from their bosses, that are really upset if there's not sort of validation. I hear this all the time, and it's a stereotype. You know, the Gen Zs who are working, they all cry. They're all crying all the time because they're not used to this. They're literally not used to the face-to-face interaction because they had 2 years off.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, we have to be careful not to just throw judgment like, what's wrong with them? I'll tell you exactly what's wrong with them. We had a pandemic.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with them. We had a pandemic.
Yeah, and isolation, I think, is one of the things that we're we talk about self-medication and all the things that we did during COVID.
Yeah.
And certainly, I think in a lot of cases it made marriages stronger. I think, we get tired of looking at each other, but I think in a lot of ways you're like, man, thank goodness I don't have to deal with dating or going out in this particular situation because I'm losing 2 years of my life, and we didn't know how long it was going to last.
Right.
The isolation period, and I thought it was really interesting that he mentioned that men are not only watching porn, but they're on social media. And when I think of social media, I think about just being on your phones.
Yeah.
And for the teacher to sit there and say that there's really no period of getting to know you, we think because we text a woman 4 or 5 times before we actually go on a date that we know her. We never did that. I mean, when you and I were dating, dating together, but when we started dating, we didn't have phones. You'd pick up the phone, you'd have a very uncomfortable 6 or 7 minute phone call, you would hyperventilate, you couldn't wait it was over, you hung it up, and you're like, okay, she said yes, now what the hell am I going to do?
Right.
You'd have to write down your directions.
Right.
She lived in the back of a cul-de-sac after 18 turns, and you're like, God, I hope I get there in time. I mean, there was all these, but you had to think through that process, and then you'd spend an evening together.
Right. And it was clunky for both. It was clunky for both of you. This is what this teacher is saying is, to your point, this is what I'm saying is actually wrong. All the text communication that you have, even if it's, FaceTime.
You would think that would be a beneficial thing, but I think it's some way.
It's how you think about it, because it is getting to know you. It's getting to know you in a different way at a different level. But what it does mean is, by the time you have your first face-to-face interaction, unlike you and I, where most of this stuff we hadn't seen them, or we hadn't seen them a lot, we weren't able to see them in the context of our telephone calls, so we sort of didn't know moods, etc. By the time you get to your first date, you've had all kinds of interaction, so the level of intensity in terms of questions and interactions goes up. The problem is, for most guys, it hasn't gone up. It's not raised to the level of most women.
Yeah.
They're already asking about, and when you're talking about 28, 29, 30, for a lot of women, it's not so much about marriage, but it's like, I don't want to just screw around.
What's really sad about this, and this 28-year-old says this in his comments, sexuality in this country, screw the 60s and 70s free love. I mean, it's free love now. I mean, there's New York clubs that are open just for hookups.
Yeah.
There are apps just for hookups.
Just for hookups.
And he's like, it's much easier if I'm just looking to prove my sexual appetite and just get what I need to be with something that's warm and feel a touch.
Yeah.
I can go find that, and I don't have to get into a relationship. I don't have to spend the money on the dance, and I don't have to go through that awkward thing because we're both there for the same thing.
That's a great point.
But you're not going to fall in love with that.
No, and that's a great point,
and
because that's not just porn. That's not just porn.
And it wasn't like that. Women weren't like that. We all had one woman in high school who was known as, the one that developed early, and we were talking about her, and she's done every guy in the football team and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying all women are like this, but it's much easier now. If you want to get a hookup, you can have one by noon today. You couldn't do that 10 or 15 years ago.
Well, and you can have it. I mean, and you can have it.
And so guys, we're going to go that least, because obviously sex is a big part of what a relationship is, or we think, to a guy.
Well, and here's the other thing. You can have it regardless of your sexual preference, your gender identity. This is not just male, female, heterosexual. This is gay, straight, bi.
Yep.
There's an app for that. There is a community for that. And to your point, we call it a hookup, but it for us, it's like, oh, that's not right, if you will.
Yeah.
And I understand people's religious beliefs, but for sexual satisfaction, if you think about it, in our generation, you were talking prostitution.
Dude, it meant so much more. And I know 28-year-old or 30-year-olds are watching this right now are going to think I'm crazy. Because if you get on one of these dating apps and a woman wants to sleep with you and you're like, no, I really want to get to know you first, she's going to think you're gay.
No.
She's going to go, what's wrong with you?
No,
but what I'm saying is the anticipation of building up to that point.
But that does exist, Tony.
I know it exists.
For lots of people.
I know it does, but according to a lot of Gen Zers, they don't feel that way.
Well, no, because
then when a woman is sleeping with you, she wants to sleep with you because she likes you and she feels a connection with you. And maybe she wants to have a life with you, because when we dated, I would never date someone that I didn't think I didn't have a future with. And I know people are like, what?
Really? Tony Kurre?
Are you serious?
Look at you.
Did I have my flangs? Did I have a good time? Yeah.
Look at you.
Now, I'm not talking about hooking up at a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning and waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's what
but
this
I'm talking
is.
about if I actually went out on a date with a woman.
Yeah, you want to.
Brought her a rose, hold her door, and go to the dinner, and it didn't go well, I'd always give it a second shot. But I always did that with the idea of, I'm not going to go out with you unless I find you attractive and I think that maybe we have a future together. Why am I going out with you? Now, a lot of people just like to go out and date. The speed dating thing to me, and I was part of that, on jitterbugs. We used to have the phones on the tables, phone night. Thursday night was phone night. And you'd call people from different tables, and then they turned into a speed dating thing, where you'd have 5 minutes to talk to somebody and you go around the wagon wheel, right? I thought it was funny. It was neat. It was a great way of getting to know someone really, really fast. And then at the end of the night, you could exchange phone numbers and see where it went.
Yeah.
But that anticipation, or the anticipatory part of actually getting to know someone and taking it a little slower, it's like everything, man. If you try to whip up a blueberry pie in 5 minutes, it's not going to taste as good as if you take 45 minutes and do it right.
So, I think what this is doing
God, I
now...
sound like a 57-year-old man.
Drink your... Have a cup of your coffee.
I'm going to have a talk with my 18-year-old son.
No, but what I think this is doing is, much like all of our technology and all of our communications, there are now multiple swim lanes. There's many more lanes. You want to only talk to somebody or only talk to someone anonymously? Great, you can text or there's a DM them.
Yeah.
You want to date, but you don't really want to see people in person to begin with? Great, we got dating apps. You want to hook up? There's that. I think the challenge for men in this generation is for them to get some clarity, and it's hard with all this, is what are you really looking for? Because there's porn, you can do that, quick satisfaction. There's hookup, just that. There's perusing through the dating site. But I think a lot of men, and I don't think it's men, because I work with a lot of Gen Z women, and I was going to say this about Gen Z, but they know. Mm-hmm. They at least know what they don't want. I think young men are much more confused about what is a relationship, what is not, what it's going to take, what it doesn't, and then more importantly, what do they really want versus what they feel is easy or what they feel pressure to do. And
I think sometimes too, for men, having too many choices is really overwhelming.
Yeah.
You would think with all these different things, okay, great. What exactly are you looking for? Yeah. We have a platform for that. When you go to your favorite restaurant or you go to a restaurant for the first time.
Yeah, I don't like it. Like Cheesecake Factory.
And it's like 4 or 5 pages of stuff.
I get very anxious.
What do we ask the waitress?
What's your favorite thing? What do you recommend? Yeah, I do that.
What's good here?
What's good here? And if they say...
And they'll even put a star on the menu next to things, and you'll end up picking those things. All the other 5 or 6 pages of everything else is like... And so sometimes for guys, I think that's why sometimes, unless you go to Home Depot, you're a contractor, you go to Home Depot, it's like, whoa. I was at Publix yesterday going through the dressing aisle. I was looking for creamy French dressing, just creamy French dressing. Creamy French dressing. That's all I wanted. I wanted the fat stuff. I wanted the creamy French dressing. Just give me the bottle of plain dressing. and there was 16 different types of creamy French, gluten-free, sugar-free, green label, half the calories, 30% more. Blah. Just give me a damn bottle of French dressing. And of course, I bought a bottle. It was the wrong bottle because I didn't look close enough, so I had to go back. And for guys, man, sometimes I think when you give guys too many choices, we get in our own ways. And I think in this particular case, and throw in, sprinkle in a little rejection, sprinkle in on a first date, all those things. And then, of course, the women are out there right now going, "Dude, grow up."
Well, that's exactly.
We're right here waiting on you.
It's our, it's the oversimplification. A, it's a lack of guts. B, and it's a unwillingness, and this is historical. It's an unwillingness, or it's not an inability. It's more of an unwillingness to go to the emotionally scary part, and that's critical because I'm not talking about just going there so that you can have an interaction.
Sometimes that's the thing that gets her.
Well, but it's not even get hurt. You got to be able, but you got to be able to do it. That's what I'm saying is we're too scared. It's not saying the right things that make us scared. I mean, that does, but you got to go one step deeper. You got to be able to say, I am willing to express what I truly feel. And sometimes that goes against what I've been told, taught, trained. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Here's the 4 things that you need to know.
It's true.
I mean, yeah.
It is true. And I think that, I will say though that, I mean, obviously Gen Z males are much better at that than Gen X and our generation. Yeah. I'm seeing much more of that. I'm seeing much more of a willingness to say, I'm not very good at this. You look at people our age, men, no, we don't need that. No, this age is, shit, I don't know how to do this. Now the problem is, I don't know how to do this. Oh, but look, there's porn. Perfect. Yeah. I'm out. And I think it's hard, and it makes it super hard for women who are looking for, and not necessarily a mate, but looking for a good person to date. Yes. Because these guys are all in their heads. They're all messed up. They think they're Rico Suave. They're really not, right? They're kidding themselves. And they get on the first, to your point, they get on the first date, and she asks a question, like literally, she asks a question. What are you looking for out of this relationship? Should we develop our relationship? And we absolutely crap in our pants. Yeah. That's too hard of a question. That's too hard. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. You have to be vulnerable to be courageous, and courageous to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I meant. Sometimes when a guy is dorky and uncomfortable,
that's it.
She's dorky and uncomfortable too. She just knows how to not show it as well.
Well, we're not very good at it.
But yeah, we're not very good at it.
We're
so
not.
when you are vulnerable and you're kind of talking all over yourself, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even get out of my own way." That may be the one thing that she actually likes.
You know why? Because you're showing. That's exactly what's scary about this. And scary about this article is, like I said, it goes more. There's all the intimacy stuff. What I am worried about, when you talk about relationship stuff, it is not just love and intimacy relations. It's being able to talk to people older than you, talk to your coworkers. I see all these companies that are remote only, right? Which is fine. But just because you're remote only, there are going to be occasions where you actually get in front of people, and you can't just lose your shit because you're in front of people.
Yeah.
I see that all the time. And it literally is social skills training. And if you dial that way back, I hate to do this because it always comes back to it. It becomes yet again another parenting skill that we have to teach.
And when we first created social media as we know it today,
Zuckerberg just wanted to hook up with.
Someone said, "I'm going to create this thing, Facebook or whatever."
Yes.
And we thought, man, this is going to be great because now we can not only be social with the people that are around us, that we're already social with our friends and our cliques and our little groups and our family and friends, but now we can be social with everyone that we've always wanted to reach out. And what's happened? It's turned itself upside down. Because we're not actually being social with this person.
Because those things are...
We're posting things that we really don't care whether people respond to them or not, and we're letting people know how we feel. We're getting more opinionated. We're getting more selfish with our own thoughts and feelings, and we're not actually being sociable through those things. And that carries over into all facets of life.
When Zuckerberg created, the idea was, I'm going to be able to connect with people across campus that I wouldn't otherwise know. it's a psychologically brilliant idea.
Oh yeah.
But the problem that obviously they didn't anticipate is we are so we're so hardwired for connection, and this is why rejection is really hard. That if we are in a position where there's a possibility of rejection, and rejection is the worst when somebody's rejecting you in person, right? We never thought of it before, but when we are in that situation, we are never more vulnerable or more nervous, which in and of itself is not a problem until we created all these other avenues. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. You never have to be rejected because there's this entire world that is, you can sit in your house, you never have to dress up, you can put filters on, and guess what? You'll never be, and if you're rejected, you can just make them go away. Yeah. It's literally, to me, like video games. This was an issue with video games, right? We're teaching kids about mortality. Oh, I'm not dead, I'll just start it over again. Yeah. It's exactly the same.
Exactly. Kurre and Klapow Show. Check out all of our podcasts at Tony Kurre Radio Podcast. It's Kurre with a K, K-U-R-R-E. Get the TKR app. You can listen to all of our shows throughout the day.
Is it warm in here or is it just me?
It's getting a little warm.
Okay.
Now your veins popping.
Okay, yeah.
You were on fire today, man. You got some good Instagram stuff there, dude. I cannot wait to check out Josh's Instagram page today. Going to be doing a show with Mark Ingram from the UAB Blazers. We do a show called the UAB Director's Chair. It's a great show. We'll be talking to him later on today. Win in Rome with Stuart Rome. Great show we do. Students of the Game, Austin Hanks show. Damon Johnson show is going to be coming up at Iron City, coming up on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. So make sure you get your tickets for that. He does a show with us every single week. We have Live Wire Wednesday. We have, what else we got? We got Mission Minded with Michael Coleman. Just some wonderful shows that we do. You can listen to all the shows on the TKR app. And of course, so go check out our podcast. We have over 1,000 shows up there. It's fantastic. And I greatly appreciate your watch this morning. We'll be on Fox 6 in just about 20 or 25 minutes talking about lousy neighbors. We all have them. This should be fun.
Oh, God, it's going to be so good. Someone's going to cry.
You think so?
I'm going to get somebody to cry. Cry getting that's going to be my goal.
Unless we have a Gen Z, or do we have a Gen Z?
They're going to cry. There's one. Yeah, they're both. The two that I'm thinking, either Toy and Lyndon, I think, are young. No, they may not be. They're probably Gen Z. Yeah.
See if we can make Dubs cry this morning.
No, Dubs not J's. No.
Have a great day. Appreciate you watching.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.